This week, we saw a very painful story come out of Mali where the military personnel in Mali and then the Wagner group, because the military in Mali, they are working with the Wagner group to fight terrorism. And the Wagner group were ambushed, and a lot of them were slain and a lot of them were injured. While we're still recovering from that devastating blow, the main intelligence agency in Ukraine, that is the GUR, they came out and I believe their spokesperson came out and made an admission that Ukraine is responsible for that what went on in Mali. Before I dive into my take on that, I want us to take a look back and see what is the reason for this terrorism going on in Mali and even across the Sahel region. So first, there's no way we are going to talk about the terrorism going on in Mali and not point finger at what NATO did in Libya in 2011. That's the first thing we are going to look at. So back in 2011, because NATO wanted to get rid of Gaddafi, they flooded Libya with weapons. They flooded Libya with mercenaries. They flooded Libya with deadly ammunition. And then after the fall of Gaddafi and the destruction of Libya, all these weapons and all these mercenaries, they had to move. They couldn't stay in Libya. They had to move. Of course, many of them are still going on in Libya, but several of them too had to move, and it's moved towards the Sahel region, which is one of the. In fact, after what NATO did in Libya, Obama came out and said, "Oh, that they wish." I'm paraphrasing them that oh that they wish that they should have set up um a better policy for what will happen after the fall of Gaddafi. Well, that is what under the rock. But anyway, that is one reason for what's going on in Mali. And secondly, many times we focus on just 2011, but let's not forget that the one of the major reasons of this terrorism is also what the French military did in 2013. So the French military marched into Mali in the name of fighting terrorism that NATO had ignited. But in the name of fighting terrorism, they stepped into Mali and they did all the things they wanted to do. But instead of getting rid of the terrorists, the situation got worse. And not just worse, it then spread to neighboring countries like Mali, like Niger, Burkina Faso, and the rest of them. So part of this, I believe they're called the Tuareg rebels. Part of this issue going on with the Tuareg rebels now in Mali is because of what the French did in 2013 and NATO did in 2011. That is what is the cause of this fire burning across the Sahel region. So after the French marched into Mali in 2013, then they stayed. They didn't leave. They didn't accomplish what they were supposed to accomplish. They didn't leave. They stayed in Mali and continued doing whatever it is they said they were doing. So this lasted for several years until finally the military government in Mali came in, ousted the president, and came into power. Once he came into power, one of the arguments, in fact, one of the issues he tabled was that the French came in to fight terrorism. It didn't work. It got worse. So that was why they asked the French military to leave. So as the French left, the president of Mali, which is the military regime, they welcomed in the Russians because they said, since these ones were not helping us, let's see if the Russians will work. And so the Russians, particularly the Wagner group, they came into Mali. And surprisingly, since they came into Mali, they've recorded quite a number of successes. We'll give credit where credit is due. So they've recorded quite a number of successes in Mali. In fact, the Wagner Group and the Malian military and the Malian forces, they have been able to take back a lot of communities and territories that were initially held by these terrorists. In fact, I believe one of the most recent one, the whole country was jubilating, everybody was excited because it seemed like peace in certain areas were coming back to the country of Mali. But then this week, something very devastating happened. There was an ambush, and that led to the death of a number of military men in Mali and also the Wagner forces who are working with the Malians to bring stability to the country. Now, following that ambush and that defeat to the Malian military, a lot of people came out and said that what happened in Mali happened because the rebels they worked with the West. The West helped the rebels to give that devastating blow to Mali. I don't know. I've not seen any evidence of that. So I don't want to talk about that. Instead, I want to talk about what the Ukraine's intelligence agency said. As we're still mourning the death of these people, the spokesperson for the GRU, Ukraine's intelligence agency, so that's like the CIA version in Ukraine, came out and said that Ukraine is responsible for what happened. In fact, he said that Ukraine has been training these rebels with tactical maneuvers, and also there's even been reports that Ukraine has also been training them on how to fly UAVs, that is unmanned aerial vehicles, how to fly UAVs, and also training them and also supplying them with these weapons. Ukraine. Now I want to read a quote from his statement. His name is Andriy Yusov. He said the rebels received the necessary information, and not just information, that allowed them to carry out a successful military operation against Wagner. Let's not forget that Wagner is fighting alongside the Malian forces to defeat these terrorists. So now he's telling us that Ukraine backed the terrorists with military information, and not just military information. So my question is, what else? But like I said, we said several reports have shown that it's not just that they also provided them with military training. They provided them with how to training on how to fly UAVs. Also provided them with the weapons needed. In fact, even after that happened, the rebels posed with Ukrainian, well, suspected Ukrainian military people, and also carried the Ukraine flag. I'll show you the picture. Then he went on to promise continuation. Continuation of what? Of funding and backing terrorism in Mali, in Africa. Now, Ukraine can have issues with Russia, fine. That is why they are fighting in Europe. But to bring this thing to Mali, to kill Malians, and supporting the rebels, the terrorists, to put the lives of Malians at risk, that's a very, very, very bad move from Ukraine. So, in response, the government of Mali have said they're going to table a complaint to the United Nations because of Ukraine's admission of funding and backing terrorist activities in the country. Now, here's my take on this. Since 2022, Russia has been doing its military campaign in Ukraine. And so ever since then, we've seen the Ukrainians seek support from the global community. In most instances, they've gotten support from the West, NATO countries, and then some other countries that are not in NATO, like South Korea, Japan, all these US allies. But still, Ukraine is still looking for more support from the global south, as it is called. I think I would like to say the global majority, like India, China, Africa. There's been several instances where representatives of the government of Ukraine, including people from the foreign ministry, have visited Africa seeking support from Africa. So if you're Ukraine and you need Africa's support to give you more boost against the activities of Russia in your country, I thought that the right thing you're supposed to do was supposed to, you know, show yourself being in, what's the word? To show yourself being on Africa's side. So coming out now to boldly say that you are funding, you are backing terrorist activities in Mali, a country in Africa that you're looking for help from. You are looking for Africa's support. You say you need Africa's support, yet you are backing terrorism activities in Africa. That's a blow to your cause. Let's look at it. You're saying that Russia is killing Ukrainians, and it's bad to set Ukraine on fire. Yet you are you are throwing your weight behind those who are setting Mali on fire. No, if not just throwing your weight, you are actively setting Mali on fire. You are an active player in setting Mali on fire. And you expect Africa's support? Please explain to me how this thing makes sense in Ukraine's advantage. How does it make sense for their intelligence agency to come out to take responsibility for what happened in Mali? Because you're mad at the Russians. You're mad at the Russians. Are you mad at the Malian forces? You're mad at the Russians. Are you mad at the people of Mali that you're looking for their support? Hmm. Listen, sometimes I when I look at things that are going on in the world in general, geopolitics, and also look at what's happening in Africa, I think that Africa is a place where countries that are feeling emasculated on the global stage, they come to Africa to feel big. I think so. Countries that look, sometimes it looks like, oh, they are nothing on a global stage. They've lost their reputation on a global stage. They come to Africa to feel that, yes, we are still the thing. Because if not, explain to me all these military bases we have across Africa, not just of world powers, like China, Russia, and the United States. Not just those military bases. We've also seen military bases of countries like Saudi Arabia. We are seeing Turkey's military base. We are seeing this UAE's military base. Countries that I'm not saying they're not important, but they're not world powers. Yeah, they're coming to Africa to be there. Just now you're seeing Ukraine using the tragedy, the excruciating tragedy of the Malian people, using it to beat their chest and say, yeah, yeah, we are still a big dog. You know, it reminds me of China's century of humiliation. There's something that the Chinese call their century of humiliation, where the Americans and the Japanese they humiliated them. Let me use that word. For 100 years, they humiliated. They brought them down to their knees. So that time, when the Chinese were talking, people were looking at, oh no, it's China. We can do anything we like to do with China. And the Chinese would probably say, oh, treat us nicely, treat us with respect. And then they'll be like, oh, please, it's China. I say, nobody. We can have our field day with China. But see China today. And one of the things they always say, and they remind, in fact, the Chinese, it's serious to them. It's their century of humiliation, and they said they will never go back there. In fact, one of the driving forces for China to stand as big as it is today is so that it doesn't go back there. I said that to say this. Right now, Africa is probably looking to the whole world like, oh yeah, this is a place to just go and you feel big. If they beat you on the global stage, you can come to Africa to feel like you're still in charge, you're still a dog because you can do anyhow with Africans. Africa will not forget. This is just a few moments. I believe this is just the ending of our centuries with an S. This is just the ending of our centuries of humiliation. Africa is going to stand. I'm telling you. Africa is going to be a fearless player on the global stage. I'm telling you. And even as we become big on the global stage, and even as we become a serious player in global affairs, Africa will not forget those who did bad to us. Right now, everyone can have their field day with Africa, no problem. But the day is coming, and I'm telling you, it is very near. When nonsense like this will not continue. This is the ending. This is the kick. No, this is what they say the kick of a dying horse. This is the kicks of a dying horse, the ending of Africa's centuries of humiliation. We will not forget the countries that supported the killing of Africans. We will not forget the countries that threw their weight behind terrorism and instability in Africa. We will not forget. So what do you think about Ukraine's admission that they are responsible for this terrible thing that just happened in Mali, the killing of Malian forces, and consequently throwing Ukraine working the with terrorists against the people of Mali just because they want to show the world that they are scoring points against Russia, which is the Wagner group. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends so that this message can reach more people across Africa.